Hello and welcome back to the Corruption of Colton podcast, episode 19. And today we're going to be taking a look at the North Carolina-based band Another Lost Year and their debut album, Better Days. Now, honestly, going into this album, I forgot just how expansive and just how experimental Another Lost Year is. I just remember them as another metal band. I forgot how experimental their songs can be, leaning into rock and country influences. I completely forgot about that. It's been so long since I've listened to this quartet that I forgot just how unique Another Lost Year is in sound. So I am really excited to go over this album with you guys. I just finished listening to it, and I can't wait to go over track by track with you guys this amazing album that is Better Days by Another Lost Year. Now, they're a little bit of a, I don't want to say underground band. Like, I feel like there are rock and metal fans that know who they are, but they're a little underground. Like, they're no Metallica. They're not like Metallica or Slayer, where most rock and metal fans know who they are. They're not another Slipknot or another Megadeth. You know, they're not those big bands. And they're not like one of the biggest beloved bands, but they're also not one of the most hated. They're not another Nickelback where everyone except for me seems to hate them. They're just another metal band that some people know, some people don't. They're a little in the middle there. And I like those bands. You know, I really like those bands that are a little in the middle. I like listening to them. Actually, the way I find music I like is through Apple Music's discovery features, like the personalized playlist or the personalized stations they give you. Like, I like playing stations based off an artist I like, and then they'll recommend me more artists based off that artist. Some I've heard of, some I haven't, and if I like a song by an artist I've never heard, I tend to check out their discography. I'm a much more experimental person. I'm much more curious than your average music fan. You know, if I hear one song by an artist, I suddenly want to hear them all. I'm a very curious listener when it comes to music, and that's how I have found bands like Another Lost Year. Instead of just hearing a song by them and then just moving on, I click their artist profile on Apple Music and start checking out the albums and singles and EPs and all that so that I can take in the experience of the artist. And this band, Another Lost Year, was no different. Anyways, let's get into the first track of Better Days. We start off the album with the key title track, Better Days. Now, this one is really good. I actually want to bring up a few things and compliment a few things here. So, Better Days is a song about knowing that better days are up ahead and that you just need to get clear of your problems. And once you do, there will be better days ahead. And the song points out it's not easy to get rid of those problems, but it's possible. And I think that the lyrics are very powerful and motivating. And there's a lot of rock songs like this, but this one really stands out to me by the vocal delivery. The vocals just seem very sincere and strong and personal in the vocal delivery, which a lot of songs do this, but I feel like this one just does it in its own special way, and I really appreciate that, and that's why I really like it. Not every song can deliver it in this way. All rock songs can, a lot of rock songs can sound motivating and, can sound very strong and emotional, but this one just captures it in its own creative way. I guess the Another Lost Year way, So I really like that. And also this song is complemented by this really epic sounding drum intro before the guitars and bass come in. The drums are like boom, 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 and I really like it. It really complements the song, and it really loops you right in. Like, it really traps you right into the album. It sends you right in. When you're listening to an album, you want the first song on the album to attract your attention. And this song does a really good way of doing that because it's loud and punchy. So it really gets you listening and paying attention. And I think this song does a good job of that. Also, another thing I would like to compliment about the song is the guitar and bass structure. The bass and guitars really complement each other here. The bass really kind of like shakes a little bit. When I'm listening to this with just my headphones in, I can really hear the bass rattling in my ears between one headphone to the other. It's really evenly mixed and it's really clean. And for a band that's just doing their debut album, they did a very good job on the production here. And the guitars really complement the bass. They really go well together. The guitars almost become part of the bass on the album. Like, it's almost like they flow together to create a bass sound. Like, the guitars almost start to shake. That's my way of describing it. So the bass and guitar, they get that gritty sound and they really well mix it together. They really make the bass and guitar fuse together to make its own unique sound. And I love bands that do that. I like bands where the bass player and the guitar player can play off of each other while still creating a unique sound that is theirs and have the chemistry to make the bass and guitar blend together. I really like it when bass players and guitar players in bands can work together to make both of their instruments sound different and similar at the same time to create a unique sound. That's what you want in a band. You don't want a band, well, I guess there are some bands where bass and guitar sounding separate's okay, but it's just good to have that music chemistry because bass and guitar are very important to a rock song because they kind of flow together in rock songs. So they make up, like, I want to say 70% of a metal or rock song, and when they can play off of each other, that's a great thing. I'm probably not describing it in the best way. There's probably someone in the music podcast industry that can describe it better than I can, but I hope what I'm saying makes sense. Anyways, I give this song an A so far. So far, this is looking to be a great album. If the rest of the tracks are as good as this, we're up for a great album. We're in for a great album here. War on the Inside is about the war that all of us have inside. Everybody has a personal war that they're fighting with inside themselves. Maybe with other people or with just themselves personally. I'd say the personal war that I fight every day is that everyone thinks that I'm not going to make it in society because of my disability. People tell me I'm not going to be able to learn how to cook. People have told me that I won't be able to move out of my parents' home and live successfully on my own with my own home or apartment. People have told me I won't get married and have kids because I just wouldn't know how to do it or wouldn't be able to know how to do it because of my vision. But they're all wrong and it's all not true, and I know that. And I think that having to defend myself all the time can be exhausting, which is why I've just stopped trying to defend myself. I just walk away from the fight or tell them, whatever, that's your opinion. And I think that could be said for anybody who's fighting any personal war. We just lose the strength to fight the war because it just becomes stupid and idiotic after it's repeated time and time again. And this song is basically about struggling with it and just saying, can you please free me from this war on the inside? Can you just save me? That's what this song's about. And I can totally relate to that. There was a time where I was like, can I just not have this disability? Can I just not have to put up with this? Can God save me from whatever I'm going through, right? But now I've come to terms with my disability, and I've come to terms with my war on the inside of me. I've accepted that I'm visually impaired and I should be proud of it. I should be proud of who I am, and I shouldn't let my vision stop me or deter me from wanting to become a visually impaired adult, an independent visually impaired adult, I might add. I shouldn't let anybody make me think otherwise. I shouldn't let anyone bring me down or drag me down. And if someone's being dragged down, I'm not going to let them drag me down with them. And that's the terms that I've come to. I don't care who tries to stop me, family, friends. If it's a partner, then they are not my partner anymore because they clearly are not accepting of me and my disability and can't love me for me. They can't see past my disability and love me for the man that I am, which is a loving, caring man. So, I think that that's the terms that I've come to, and that's the terms that I wish for every disabled person to come to. I know a few people who have. You should check out the YouTuber Christian Sullivan. He's kind of like Molly Burke, but less popular. He only has like 200 or so subscribers, but you should check him out. He's wishing to be like Molly Burke someday in popularity. He is a young, visually impaired man who I know in my personal life, and personally I'm proud of the mental state that he's in, and the fact that he's come to terms with his disability. He's actually helped me come to terms with mine by his motivational speaking in his videos. And I think anybody who needs motivation to live on with their disability should watch his content. If you're blind, in a wheelchair, have autism, Down syndrome, whatever you have, his videos can be motivating because he shows that he has overcome so many life challenges, and so have I. I've thought about starting a YouTube channel about blindness and overcoming challenges. If I do, you guys will be the first to know. But for right now, this podcast is what I love, and I've overcome so many challenges with this podcast, to be honest. I mean, with this podcast, I've overcome the things people have told me. People told me I wouldn't be able to edit videos or edit podcasts or anything because you need to be able to see to do it. And not exactly. You can use text-to-speech on your iPhone. Anchor is compatible with text-to-speech and screen readers. So despite the low vision, I put together if I must say so myself, a pretty good podcast. I mean, maybe I'm just biased. Tell me what you guys think of the podcast. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts. You can leave reviews, or leave a review on Spotify. Do I do a good job? Let me know, because I think I do, but that could be biasism. I have people in my personal life who tell me that I do a good job, but again, that could be because they are friends with me and they're biased. Who knows? Tell me what you guys think. Anyways, let's move on to the next track. I love this one, by the way. We then continue the album with a song called All That We Are, which follows a more hard rock, radio rock vibe that I really like. It has more of a simple, not complex guitar solo, but that can be a good thing. I like that the song slows down a little bit. I like a song that slows the album down a little bit. The song isn't a slow song. It's not a ballad by any means, but it's not a fast hard rocker like the last two tracks have been. And I like that this slows the tempo down a little bit. And I like that it follows the theme of mental health that we have been following the last two tracks. I like that this album really just follows a vibe of mental health and the different feelings of mental health. This song is about just believing that we are all what we are, and we're the best that we can be, and we just have to believe that we can be our best, and I like that. I couldn't really find much information on this song, so this is more of my prediction by listening to the lyrics. This is what I perceive the song to be. Again, this is a less popular band. It's less known, so they're not really in the Song Facts database. Some of their songs are, but not all of them, mainly only their singles, so I had to make a little bit more of an educated guess, and this is what I believe the song to be about. And I like that this album is following a vibe of discussing different feelings and vibes that you can feel while going through your mental health crisis or mental health struggle and the road to being mentally okay. I like that this album follows that vibe. It's a very relatable vibe for me because I went through a mental health crisis during the pandemic, like I've said in other episodes. And just throughout my life, I've gone through different mental health journeys and mental health crises One was during the pandemic. I went through one during 8th grade, and I signed up for the school newspaper club at my middle school, which really helped me get through that mental health crisis. It's mainly thanks to an amazing teacher we had named Mr. Calloway back in 8th grade, who ran the newspaper club, who really encouraged me to put my video making skills to the test, to make educated videos about the blind for our school website, which really made me feel confident in myself and really made me get into a better place mentally. So I thank him. And that's what I think this song's about. Anyways, let's move on to the next one. Broken by Another Lost Year, which is the 4th track on this album. I perceive it as trying to learn to let go of grudges. I almost said let grow. Anyway, learning to let go of grudges, because your grudges against someone or a person is eating away at you and making you feel broken. And I know what that's like. I know what it's like to hate someone so much. You let it rule your entire life, and it is not a good feeling, which is why I have learned to let go of my grudges against people. I wouldn't say that I've completely let go of disliking certain people that have been in my life, but I've learned to not hate them with a strong passion, if that makes any sense. Like, I would not choose to hang around them if I had the choice. But I do not go out of my way to attack them verbally, physically, or, cause any chaos in their lives. I just let them be. Because obviously, we're not going to get along, so we should just leave each other alone. And that's something I've learned, and a realization that I've come to over a lifetime. It's just a part of getting older. When I was a teenager in high school and middle school, I would pretty much go out of my way to make someone else's life hell if I disliked them. But as I got older, I learned that name calling and beating them up and things like that isn't going to solve anything. Violence isn't going to solve my problems. Verbal violence, physical violence, it's not going to solve my issues. And I've learned that I need to solve my problems with words, or not attempt to solve them at all if my problems are perceived by another person or are caused by another person. Then I should not go out of my way to mend things if they are not willing to listen or willing to mend them themselves. I'm not going to make someone cooperate. I can't make them cooperate, and I don't seek a relationship with somebody who isn't willing to seek a relationship with me. I feel like a relationship, either a friendship, romantic relationship, family relationship, whatever it may be, it's not worth having one with them if it's going to be a one-sided respect and it's not mutual. If it's going to be a one-sided relationship where only one person respects the other person, that relationship's going to fail. And I've learned that if they don't wish to have a relationship with me, I should not seek a relationship with them, and I should just leave them be, and they will leave me be, hopefully. If they do try to make my life hell, I've learned to ignore them, because giving in to them isn't going to make the problem better or smaller. It's going to make it bigger because they're getting the attention that they want. And that's the thing I've learned. Don't give attention to your bullies or harassers or whatever you want to call them. Because it's only going to make your life worse, and only your mental health is going to go down. Only you are going to suffer in the situation. They're not going to suffer because they're getting what they want. They're getting what they seek. They get joy and pride out of seeing you suffer. So I've learned to just ignore them. And I think that's what this song is about. Just finding your way to ignoring people. I think that's what this is about. And obviously I've learned to forgive some, and I'm not going to forgive some. Like I said, I'm a very forgiving person, but I know that I can't forgive all. But just because I don't forgive them doesn't mean I have to attack them. I used to think that if I don't forgive you, then I needed to go out of my way to annoy you or destroy you. But I've learned that I don't have to like you. I don't have to forgive you for things you've done, but I do need to leave you alone. And that's the thing I've learned through life. And I love talking about these personal things on the podcast because it helps me get my feelings out. I feel like these are certain things that I can't tell everyone. Not because I don't want to, but because some don't want to listen to it, except maybe my therapist, right? So, this is kind of like a therapeutic thing for me to say it on the podcast. And that's personally how I feel. Anyways, I'm sorry if this is too personal. But, that's just... I just like to connect with my audience and make it a little bit of a more personal podcast. Some will appreciate that, obviously. Some won't. But let's move on to the next song. To me, What I Deserve sounds like a song about people who fall for false words. People who believe in the words of an abuser or a manipulator, and then when they find out that the words are all fake, they feel like they got what they deserved for falling for this person's bullshit in the first place, and basically say, I got what I deserved for believing it. And I know what that feels like. As I've talked about on this show that I've been cheated on by exes, and there were situations where I felt like, I got what I deserved for believing that they loved me, and I got what I deserved for trusting them and putting my heart and soul into this relationship. So I definitely can sympathize with this song and relate to it as well. I sympathize with people who are in my situation and are cheated on and manipulated. I really do feel for you because I've been there, right? And obviously I could be wrong about this song's meaning because there isn't much information about this album or the songs on the album. I mean, there's information about this album. There's people that have reviewed it, but they've only reviewed a few tracks, which is why I've only found information on a few of the songs. But mainly I've had to go based off of reading the lyrics to really come up with a idea for the songs here. And I'm basically going into this blind. I'm basically going into each song blindly thinking, is this maybe what the song means? I do like that. I do like being able to judge a song blindly and trust my idea of what the song means. But I also like going online and finding what the artists have said in interviews because it does help give a clearer idea. So there are some songs where I think it's on the nose and obvious what it's about, but then there's times where it's not, and I'm like, man, I really could use a band statement right now. But I guess that in this scenario, since this is an underground band, it's more useful to get information, I'd say. I kind of want more information on this because I want to understand these underground bands more. This band is underground, but not at the same time. I guess it's what you determine as underground, what your definition of an underground band is. So when it's a band like this that doesn't have much information about them out there except for a few Google searches, I would like some more band statements where with more established bands, I like dissecting the music and just going based off what lyrics I've read, because there's already a lot of ideas out there of what the song means. Even bands have stated it. So then I like to sit there and go, well, maybe this is what else the song could mean. Obviously, I know what it means, but the lyrics could also mean this. I like doing that. So I like doing that with popular bands, but with bands like this, I want a little bit more information, if that makes sense. Half of my explanations probably don't make sense because I have a very unique way of dissecting things, and I have a very unique way of thinking because I actually had a brain injury when I was born and had a stroke, so I probably have a very unique and dumb way of thinking. But anyways, let's move on to the next track. This next song, Angels, was actually really disappointing. Not because of how it sounded or what the lyrics are about or anything, but actually about one of the things involving the duet. You see, their lead vocalist, Clinton, is doing a duet with a woman on this song, and the main problem, they don't tell us who it's with. You see, when I'm listening to a song that features another artist that I haven't heard of or don't recognize vocally when I hear them in the song, I want to check them out, especially if their vocal delivery catches my eye, which it does. I think that they mince well together. I think that Clinton and the woman in this song have good vocal chemistry, and I think that she sounds good. So I want to check out other songs that she sang on. Is she an artist that released her own albums? Does she release her own singles? Or is she just an artist that sings with other artists? You know, I want to know this information. But this song doesn't say who it's featuring. It says Angels by Another Lost Year. There's not a featuring thing. And when I look it up online, I don't find much information despite Apple Music labeling this as a popular track. So I'm going to have to dock a point off this track for failing to give me that necessary information that a lot of songs do. I do think it failed here. In terms of meaning, I think this song means a lot of different things. I'm not sure what it's about, but I'm leaning towards the idea that people don't care about what we have to say, and I'm not sure if that's right or not. The lyrics are very confusing to me, but maybe I'm just going through a complete overwhelm. I might be just completely overwhelmed by the fact that I can't find out who this artist is. I just might be going through an overload right now, but this is just disappointing for me. This is disappointing vocally by the fact that I can't figure out who the vocalist is. But Clinton sounds fine. The instrumentation's great. This actually is the first song on the album to slow it down. This shows the country rock elements that I told you about in the beginning of this episode. This band does do a blend of country elements with hard rock, and I really like that. Kind of like Corey Taylor's record, but again, in its own way, it's a little different. But I like it. It's a good song. I'm just disappointed. So I'm going to move on to the next song. This next song, Runaway, is just so sweet and sincere that I just can't help but love it. This one actually really slows things down. If I thought that the last track, Angels, slowed down the vibe, this one does it even more. This one leans into literal pop rock territory in the verses, and I love it. It's a change of pace from the other tracks, which I really appreciate. I love albums that can experiment with different sounds and really make the track list unique and different, so I love it. And I just love the sweet and sincerity of this song. It's about saying, I really love this person. I really love you. Let's run away and cherish our love. No one can take out your love away from me. No one can take you from me. You know, it's just a very sweet and sincere song that you could sing to your girlfriend or wife or whatever you identify your relationship as, right? I think this is a great song. I'm definitely sending this to my girlfriend after I'm done recording this. This is a great song. I love it. This one is probably one of my favorites on the album. Do I like it as much as War on the Inside? I think I like War on the Inside a little more. But this song's definitely up there as my second favorite from this album. So this next track, Last Goodbye, is catchy as hell. It should be illegal just how catchy this hook is. Clinton sings, "Will you watch me as I pray away the night?" He sings it like that, and it's a literal earworm. I put my headphones in, I listen to this pop rock style song, and I'm expecting it to just be another Lost Year song. And the chorus comes in and just hits me like that. I couldn't stop singing this for the last few minutes, which is why I'm a little late to recording this. Obviously, this is going to be released on time. I'm trying to release new episodes on Mondays and Fridays this year. So, to you guys, it's no different. This is probably out on Monday, January 9th, the date it's supposed to be released. But for me, I'm recording this at like 2 in the morning or so because this has just been in as an earworm for the last few hours since I listened to this. I haven't been able to focus on recording because of just how catchy it is. And this is probably another one of my favorite songs off the album now. Because if there's one of the things that I love about a song and appreciate is when the song's unforgettable. I mean, there are some really good unforgettable songs out there, like Everything I Do It For You by Bryan Adams, My Heart Will Go On, theme from Titanic by Celine Dion. There are just some of those unforgettable songs out there. Breakaway by Kelly Clarkson for the hook. Skater Boy by Avril Lavigne for nostalgic reasons. There's just so many songs that either just have great hooks or are a nostalgic memory, or a song like this that's just catchy and you just can't help but love singing along to it. That's the vibe that this song has. And I think that this song is about not wanting to say goodbye. It's about going home, but you don't want to say goodbye to the people you've met while you were away. I think that that's how I interpret this. And this song is just so good. This is probably going to become a new shower song, to be honest. This is probably going to be another one of those songs where I hook up the waterproof Bluetooth speaker in my bathroom, hop in the shower, and this song is going to be on. I'm actually going to add this to my shower playlist that I've made. I've made a playlist of songs that you just should listen to in the shower. That's what I've created, no joke. Does anyone else have a shower playlist of songs they sing to in the shower? I do. This one's going to be on there now. Will you? Alright. Anyways, let's move on to the next track. The next song, Writing on the Wall, which was the final single from this album before the album got released, was pretty good. And I think what really separates it from the other songs about mental health struggles on this album and what really makes it unique and give it its own identity is the lyric in the chorus, "When your movie ends, I will be there to catch you when you fall," which I think is a very unique way of describing mental health struggles, describing it as a movie, which I think is very true. I think that at times life can feel like a movie, almost like a sad sitcom movie, like a very sad, poorly written sitcom. That's what life can feel like. I swear at times you can go through these mental health struggles and you just feel like, am I living in a sitcom, but it's written to be really sad and pull at the heartstrings? That's seriously what life feels like at times, and you wonder if your life is even reality or not. I definitely question my reality sometimes, so I know what this song is trying to say, and it's really relatable. But that's how pretty much every song in this album is. This song is like one big mental health struggle, but in a very unique way that is very, very relatable. Anyways, let's move on to the next one. This song's really good. This next track on the album, Come and Gone, is about being all out of hope in life. And I think that most of us are all too familiar with that. I think the pandemic of 2020 and 2021 put a lot of us out of hope. We were all scared and worried about what our lives would entail next. Would we make it out of the pandemic? Would we ever get rid of the virus? Would we ever be able to live our lives normally again? And I feel like we were all out of hope that our lives would ever be normal. I think we were all out of hope that we would ever return to work or that we would be able to spend times with our loved ones like we used to before. We were all out of hope of, would we ever get to socialize without wearing masks or social distancing? We can't even hug our loved ones or shake hands with new friends, and it's all because of this new virus coming around. And I think that I speak for a lot of people when I say we were out of hope. I know I was, and I think a lot of people were. All those things that I just listed are what I was feeling. I thought that I would never get to hug my loved ones or shake hands again. I was not sure if I would even see some of my loved ones again. At least not for a long time. I wasn't sure about a lot of things. And this song, I think, really captures that. And this was before the pandemic even happened. I mean, this album came out in the early 2010s, so COVID wouldn't even happen for another decade. But this song seemed to capture what that would feel like. Not what COVID would feel like, but the desperation and the out of hopeness for something. So this song you can listen to and I think put it into the situation of the pandemic. But you can do that with a lot of songs. Avril Lavigne's song Warrior, before COVID happened, she released it on her Head Above Water album, and she sang it like, I'm a warrior, I'm gonna fight for my life like a soldier, And that's what a lot of people with COVID were doing. They were certainly fighting for their lives. A lot of people were. So a lot of songs can be turned into the COVID situation and become even more relevant all these years later. In fact, Avril Lavigne even re-released the song as a COVID, not a tribute, I don't think that's the right word, but as I guess you could say a tribute to all the people who were fighting for their lives with COVID by changing the lyrics to We Are Warriors, referencing everybody. So COVID was definitely a dark time, and I think this song can capture that, though was before that. Anyways, let's move on to the final track of this album. It's been a fun ride. Forgot About Us comes off as a song about how someone that you love has fallen out of touch with themselves. He sings in the lyrics about how someone he loved has told him things, and he's like, I believed in everything you said, or just lies came out, and that's what it's about, and how he's like, I hope you find your way back home. And a lot of that is sung in the first verse especially. He sings something along the lines of, I used to believe everything you said, or lies just came out. And in the chorus he sings about him wanting them to make their way back home. And I strongly believe that this is a song about someone who he loves. He used to believe everything they said and used to trust them, and now he's learned that they either lied to him or has fallen out of touch with who they originally were, and they're just not the same person that he loved. Clearly the person he loved and the person they are now are two completely different people, and I can sympathize with this and even relate to this. There are definitely people in my life that I've had that I feel like are not the same person that I fell in love with. I dated a girl for 4.5 years, and as she got older, she seemed to have gotten much more egotistical. She often seems to believe that there's nothing wrong with her, and that's why we broke up. She would think there was nothing wrong with her, and that everyone else around her just hated her, and, that everyone else around her were the people with a problem. She would think that, the reason people didn't call her or text her was because they had a problem with her, when really the truth was, I'm going to be honest with you, it's because she would often get mad at them for petty things, and she would also gaslight them and say, oh, because you don't do this, you don't care about me, or because you couldn't make it to this, even though you had other commitments, you just don't care about me, when really they just had more important things going on, like family matters, right? And, she would just gaslight them, and it was quite toxic, and that's why they stopped talking to her. And then she would ask, why aren't you talking to me? And they would tell her the truth that, she gaslights them. And then she would just try to turn it on them and say that they have a problem with her, and that she doesn't have a problem, that she doesn't need help, they're the ones who need help, and that she's not the one who's gaslighting, they're the person who's doing it, and they're the ones who are wrong. And it just got quite old, and that's why a lot of her friendships failed, and why our romantic relationship failed. It just became quite old. I think that her family particularly her mother and some of her aunts, uncles, and cousins and stuff, would put this idea in her head that she did nothing wrong, and she would start to really grasp onto that. And that's just how egotistical people are. Some people will fuel their ego, which will make their ego bigger. And you don't think that happens. And then their egos will do whatever it can to protect itself. So when they get called out on their ego will make them believe that they don't have an ego and that they're the people with the problem. And their ego will make them believe that they're the ones who need help. And their ego will make them believe that people just hate them. And that's what an ego does to a person, I believe. And it shows in my ex-girlfriend and in other people. Some politicians, some musicians, some people just are hot-headed. Some actors and actresses, some people just get hot-headed from fame, or if they're not famous, they get hot-headed from being supported too much. It just happens like that. It happens in some people. Some people can come back from it. Some people can wake up and open their eyes and realize they're a jackass. And some can't. I'm going to admit I had some problems when I was younger. Maybe I had a little bit of an ego when I was younger, but I opened my eyes and realized that the world does not revolve around me. But some people just can't open their eyes to that. It's unfortunate. But also, I think this was a great way to end the album as well. So let's get into what I thought of the album. In the end, I think that Better Days is an amazing radio rock, hard rock, country rock, pop rock, heavy metal album for anybody who is struggling with mental health issues. This album really speaks to me because I suffer with mental health problems, and I think it could speak to many others. A lot of the lyrics on this album cover mental health struggles, like feeling alone, feeling like you're losing someone in your life, feeling like you have some war in your brain, maybe you're struggling with something. There's so much that this album covers. This album is one big mental health support system, in my opinion. There's a song on here for pretty much for almost any mental health issue. There's something on here for everybody, and I feel like it's a great album. The vocals by Clinton, I think, are especially good and can really grasp the listener and really trap you in the album, and before you know it, you'll be feeling a little better. You'll be singing along to some of the songs and might feel a little less depressed than you were before. And I think there's just great stuff on here for everybody. I think that this is a great album, like I said, for anybody going through a mental health struggle. There's also some songs with amazing lyrics on here that tell you that life's going to be all right. You may be struggling, but you will see better days. See what I did there with the album title? But yes, this song, while portraying mental health struggles, and you might be able to connect with it on an emotional standpoint, this album also can help you realize that you will see better days, and not everything in life is all bad. You will wake up on the right side of the bed eventually. And for that reason, I give this album a 7 out of 10. It was going to be a 9, so it was going to be a higher score. However, there were some problems I encountered. For one, there's that track, Angels, that just doesn't tell you who the song features, which really irks me a little bit. And also, this album I feel like there weren't that many production notes, and there just wasn't much information to find online. I found album reviews, which I did use a little bit to help me get an understanding of some of the songs. And there were a few songs maybe had production notes, but there wasn't much to go off of. The only real information I found about the band was a few Google searches and the description of their Apple Music profile, where it mentions that they're from North Carolina and who the lead singer is and who some of the band members are. but there wasn't really much information to go off of, so I have to dock a point for that. I understand they're a little bit of a smaller band, so obviously not much information is going to be out there, but I feel like they're not that small to where there isn't much information, because if there's album reviews out there, that means that a good number of people know who they are. If there's internet reviewers that have posted reviews online, so, you would think there'd be a little bit more information than what I'm finding if I can find album reviews. So they can't be that small, and I just feel like they have a very well-produced album. This album has great production, in my opinion. So if they have the budget to make such a high production, you'd think they'd have the budget to kind of not advertise themselves a little more, but just put out a little bit more information. I might buy a CD copy of this album because I'm a CD collector, and hopefully there will be a little bit more production notes and information in the CD sleeve, with the booklet it comes with. So I'm hoping there will be a little more. Anyways, I don't want to fault the band for this, but I do feel like there's a little bit more that could be done. So this album is a 7 out of 10. Now let's get into my top 3 favorite tracks. At number 1, we have War on the Inside for the emotional impact it has made on me vocally and lyrically, which I can also say the same about the song Better Days. At number 2, we have the song Last Goodbye because of just how great it is at grasping my attention. I'm still singing along to it. Will you? that hook there is just so great. And at number 3, Runaway, that song about running with someone you love. I love just how emotional and just how in love Clinton sounds when he sings it. It's great. Anyways, again, Another Lost Year by Better Days gets a 7 out of 10. Great album. And this has been Corruption of Colton Podcast. Remember, you can follow Corruption of Colton Podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, and more. Remember to write a review on Spotify and give a review and rating on Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much for listening to Corruption of Colton Podcast. And this has been Corruption of Colton Podcast. Signing off.